What is up, Steelers Nation? Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of the AST Call-In Show. I'm Noah Streckbein, coming to you at youtube.com/All Steelers Talk. Also, check us out anywhere you get your podcasts. And as always, you can find all of my work at si.com/NFL/Steelers. A jam-packed call-in show today. Very excited. Shout out our members, as always. Let's get into it. The Pittsburgh Steelers schedule is out, but it doesn't mean that didn't add many questions to an already loaded offseason where nobody seems to know really anything, where we sit here today and we're just waiting it out as we enter the middle of May, and the Pittsburgh Steelers still don't have many things on their agenda, their checklist crossed off. A ton of call-ins today. Shout out to our members. If you want to become a member and join the AST Nation, you can do so by clicking the link in the description to the video below. If you are listening to this on audio, you can do so by going to our YouTube page, youtube.com/All Steelers Talk. I won't waste any more time. Let's get into it.
Noah, it's Marlon Lewis, man. Hope you're having a great week. And usually you tell all of the listeners and members thank you. I wanted to come on and say thank you. Thank you for giving all of us Deacon Steelers fans someone to listen to. And for instance, someone like me who posts content on TikTok, thank you for keeping me in the loop, man. But today I did have a quick question in regards to all of the wide receiver issues that the Steelers have been having dating back to, you could really say Santonio Holmes. Can some of that be attributed to the Steelers as well? As we know, like, I'm never going to take blame away from, like, George Pickens, Chase Claypool, Deontay Johnson, or any of those guys because they are very immature. But I do think that the Steelers do hold some kind of responsibility because a lot of these guys are very passionate and they have that. You can see it. Like George Pickens, for example, he had issues in college, but we know a lot of that is because he's more TO than Antonio Brown, which is not necessarily a good thing, but it is that he does things with a purpose. So do you think that the Steelers have addressed, hey, we've had these wide receiver issues, and as much as it's on them as people, it's also on us for misdiagnosing or thinking that we can fix the problem because we haven't been able to fix the problem?
Yes.
That's it. It's just, do you think the Steelers need to take more responsibilities or adjust and maybe not go so heavy defensive in? Because we've heard Naji say that he didn't have anyone in the locker room to look to for advice. And if you take that into hand with Juju and Deontay, and not really Juju and Deontay, they had been, so never mind. But George Pickens, like, who was his big bros in the locker room on the offensive side that can help him with what he needs? Maybe the Steelers need to start, I don't know, not having as high a turnover rate on the offensive side and be able to stack on players, as George Pickens said. But again, I don't want to go too long. But yeah.
Shout out my man, Marlon Lewis. First off, thank you. Thank you. Can't tell you how much I appreciate all of you guys. I've also noticed that there's a weird glare in my glasses this morning, and I don't really know where that's coming from. When it comes to the wide receiver stuff, you're true. The Steelers have had so much turnover. They've been unable to add the depth. And the problem is that their depth turns out to be Antonio Brown. And then they said, all right, we need to find quality leadership, veteran leadership in the locker room at the wide receiver position. Their answer was Allen Robinson and Van Jefferson, which, don't get me wrong, great leaders, great vets to have around, but they're not guys that have been established in Pittsburgh, and therefore it's hard to have the authority that you need to be that guy if you are a Van Jefferson or an Allen Robinson, or this year it'll be a Robert Woods. They've never had that for guys like Deontay Johnson or George Pickens. Obviously, they had a little bit of it with Juju just because of Ben and that kind of stuff, and Deontay too, but Deontay had it for a year, and then it was Mitch Trubisky and Kenny Pickett and all those guys. And Chase Claypool was the same way. Like he was I had Ben for 2 seasons, and okay, cool, but the last season wasn't great because Mitch was my quarterback and Kenny was my quarterback. And the Steelers have had so much turnover at that position. Now, don't get me wrong. I think turnover's fine. I don't think it always leads to these crazy things. But when you are going to take a risk on a guy like George Pickens, who has character red flags coming into the NFL, you're running the risk. You're running the risk. You're playing the game without having that backup plan, that security that you need as a veteran leader to help George Pickens. You are essentially saying George will be fine. Nah, he wasn't. It didn't turn out the way that you wanted. So yeah, the Steelers have to take accountability for this. It's half of their problem as much as it was George and Deontay and all these guys, because they were taking flyers on guys because of talent, which I totally understand. But if you're going to do that, you have to have your expectations be real, which is either we need to have somebody that is going to embrace these guys and going to make sure that they develop character-wise into what we need them to become, or we're just going to guess that they're going to be fine. And they're not going to be. They never are. And the Steelers have paid the price for it multiple times now with multiple different receivers. So yes, I do think 50% wide receiver, 50% Pittsburgh Steelers for sure.
Hey, no, I've got another question for you. All right,
Yes, sir.
so if you had to get rid of one team in the AFC North,
yes,
which one would you get rid of? Who would you replace them with?
Okay.
And why?
All right. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it so much. The easy answer would be the Browns, but we're not getting. Why would you want to get rid of the Browns? You know what I mean? Like nobody is sitting around going, man, I want the AFC North to be more boring. You know, the Browns picked second in the NFL draft this past season, if anybody wasn't paying attention. So it's not like that's a the Steelers lose to them, but you put anybody in any division, it becomes a division game. It's a totally different situation. So whether it's the Browns or the Titans or the Jaguars or whoever the bad team is, they're still going to be better against the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm getting rid of the Bengals. Sorry. Sorry. Cincinnati has nothing to offer me when I go to visit or for the fans to do when they visit. Nobody likes Skyline Chili, dude. You could say, yeah, I like Skyline Chili. It's cool when I'm driving through Cincinnati. Well, okay, that's awesome, dude. That's fantastic. All right. I bet you every city has that. Yeah, I'm going to get it here just because, but like, you're not searching it. You're not craving it on a random Monday. Nobody's sitting around going, man, dude, Skyline Chili, bro. Sounds good. No, Cincinnati's gone. It's the most boring of the rivalry for sure, of the rivalries. And who I'm replacing them with, Dallas is a good answer, but that's too much. I think you gotta find that even ground of like a team that could be good, but is also a dumpster fire at the same time. Maybe the Patriots right now would be a good one, but I don't know if they have upside. You know, I'd get rid of Cincinnati. I think I'd replace them. Oh, that's such a difficult question right there. That's such a tough question to answer. Maybe the Cowboys, and maybe the Patriots. Those would be the two easy ones, but I feel like we could come up with something better. Great question.
What is up, Noah Strackbine? This
What's
is
good,
Bird fan. We're about a week later, and I am still kind of at a loss about the GP trade.
Yes.
I don't think we got enough value. We could have got a compensatory third next year. I understand that's a year later, but we're doing good with draft picks next year anyway.
Yep.
I'm not sure why you're so positive that he wouldn't play this year, because I'm thinking as, you know, in a contract year, I think a player's going to want to play and play to their best of their ability. And I think he would only be hurting himself in free agency if he didn't play.
Agreed.
And he wouldn't get paid. Now, if his contract is guaranteed, which I think rookies might be, but if it is, then okay, sure, he still gets paid, but he's still costing himself a lot of money after this year if he doesn't play, you know, as far as free agency. And really, I put us in the same boat as we were last year. Yeah, maybe we're a little better off because we picked up Robert Woods. You know, Roman Wilson's coming. I get it, but we still don't have a legit number 2. And
I agree.
Until we do, I'm wrestling with this thing. You know, I guess I got to believe. We'll see what happens. Y'all take care.
Bird fan, my man. It's tough. It's tough. It is. Now, I agree with you with we'll start there. I agree with you with the aren't improved from last season. I think all around the roster is better, but you still don't have a wide receiver 2. Your quarterback situation is going to be potentially worse. I don't really know how you view Aaron Rodgers or how anybody views Aaron Rodgers. When it comes to George Pickens, just stack the cards. You know what I mean? That's all you got to do. And I can't guarantee anything. He could have played. You know, I could have been totally wrong. It was just my guess. That's all it was. There's no reporting on it. It's just my guess that he wouldn't be a guy that showed up this offseason. Showed up late to multiple games. Showed up late to practice multiple times. Showed up late to meetings multiple times. Just this season, including a Christmas Day game where, like, you need to be locked in. You got to win that game. First game back for injury, for just like a very crucial situation. I mean, constantly liked comments on Instagram about Kenny Pickett and then deleted all of his Steelers stuff and blatantly lied about both of them, about both situations. Posted this thing possibly about the Pittsburgh Steelers being cheap and then goes back and says, that wasn't me. There's no chance. Again, like, I don't know. I'm just stacking cards to say George Pickens doesn't strike me as a team guy. He's never struck me as a team guy. You know, he's always been I'm fine. Things are going to be fine, but I got to look out for me, you know, and that's just, I could be totally wrong about the dude. I don't know much about him, but you know, I know where he comes from, and I know that Georgia, there were the character red flags, and that's why he fell to the second round. That guy's easy first round talent. I just feel like the cards stack against that happening. Again, I could be totally wrong, but I just look at it and say there's nothing that ever indicated to me that was George was going to be totally fine taking one for the team this season, you know?
Yo, what up, big dogs? Hey, man, what do you think about the depth? I know you kind of brought it up a few times, but the O-line doesn't have a lot of depth. Like last year, Fatanu, Daniels, Moore, they all went out. And if a situation like that happened this year, I mean, what do we do? And then the same kind of goes for cornerback, man. I know JTJ kind of had a little bit of an injury last year, and if he were to have an injury or Slay had an injury, I know we have Trice, but man, that room seems like it's real narrow. And last year, I know on the pod, me and you had talked about being Bishop at the beginning of the year, man. He was awful. He was getting burnt all over the place. And we were saying, oh man, let's wait for Cam Sutton. And then he came in and he was worse, you know?
Yes.
So, I mean, and the other day on the show, I had asked about, us getting like Ramsey or Alexander, Jair. I know we need the wide receiver. I know we need the quarterback. Would you rather have another lockdown corner at your slot? You know what I mean? Because, like, let's say you had Jair Alexander or Jalen Ramsey, and you had JPJ, you have Corey Trice, you have Darius Slay out there, man. I mean, you're shutting people down like that, you know? And even if JPJ or Slay were to go out, I mean, you just push that one back and I guess attempt to put Beanie Bishop back in the slot. I know he had those 2 interceptions against the Rodgers last year, but, man, before that, he looked just not that good. So, Just curious to hear what your thoughts are on that, man. You have a good show.
Appreciate you, my dude. So we'll start with the fact that Jalen Ramsey plays inside, but Jair Alexander's an outside guy, so I think that complicates a lot of things. I would rather a wide receiver. You know, the Steelers found out last year what having a bad wide receiver core does to your offense and how miserable it makes things and how much you lack on the offensive side of the ball. And at the same time, like the Steelers have built their defensive line and their defensive front to say, we're in a great spot. You know, we could get to the quarterback. We could force bad passes. Joey Porter Jr. and Darius Slay are quality starters. Beanie Bishop makes me nervous, but Brandon Echols plays in the slot, and I think that's an option. I also wouldn't rule out a name. I mean, Asante Samuel Jr. would be the move if I was going to make a cornerback signing. It would just be, why not? Go get somebody young who's talented, who's had his neck fixed, and hopefully things are fine. But you know, that's who I would go after because you need a slot guy. But I don't think any of it happens until after minicamp. When it comes to the offensive line, you need more pieces. You have nobody. Calvin Anderson, I'm sorry, is just not enough for me to be okay with the swing tackle. Your inside's okay with Ryan McCollum and Spencer Anderson. I think that's not terrible. I would like one more piece, I think, but I feel like they'd be okay. Wide receiver, you're slacking. Like you are. I just don't think Robert Woods is a wide receiver 2. Roman Wilson and Calvin Austin have to prove themselves, but they're just essentially different players in the same role. You need a wide receiver 2. I would go wide receiver over anything right now. Swing tackle would be a massive one for me. I think even that would be above corner. The cornerback position, I think I'm okay, but Asante Samuel Jr. would be my pick. Jalen Ramsey's fine, but he's going to be super expensive. And there's, you know, there's a market for him, which surprises me a little bit, but that just means you're paying more for him. And then Jair Alexander's an outside guy, and I just think that throws a curve in everything. You don't have, you know, you're not going to force one of the other ones to play slot. It's a totally different position. That's why I think Asante Samuel would be the move there.
What's up, Noah? It's Cody. Hey, man, I just want to discuss something that's kind of been on my mind, on the back of my mind, you know, since end of last year. And I don't know why, but it for some reason, I just keep thinking about it. Man, our defense, if we don't have a top 5 defense, at least a top, 5 defense next year, I'm going to be pretty mad. And I know probably no one cares. It's just my own opinion. You know, I'll be yelling at my TV at my house, but man, for as much as we spend on defense and they just drafted these defensive players, if they're not a lead next year, this upcoming year, I'm going to be kind of mad. You know, like we're paying Watt, we're paying Hayward, we're paying, you know, Pat Queen, Minka, like, and I know our offense sucks. They have an excuse. You know, they don't have a quarterback or you could use whatever excuse you want to for the offense, but there is no reason that our defense should be as bad as they were at the end of last year. Yeah. You know, so they need to show up this year, and they need sacks, they need interceptions, they need to have Joey Porter blitz every now and again from the cornerback and just have Minka move up and cover his guy. I don't care what they do. And the thing that I struggle with the most when it comes to that is that there's teams that aren't paying their defensive players like we pay ours that are probably either equally as good or if not, maybe a little better. I don't know if that's because of coaching or what that's from, but I mean, we could talk about the Vikings, the Bills, Kansas City, the Rams. There's certain teams out there that aren't doing what we're doing on defense and still keeping up. I don't know if that's a scheme thing or what's going on. But, yeah, just wanted to see what your opinion was on that, man. Appreciate it.
Cody, my dude, great questions this morning. Let's keep it trucking with the defense. Look at it. You're not wrong. The Steelers pay way too much money for a defense that underperforms constantly, and that's because they spend it all in massive chunks and ignore the other ones with band-aids. And they've started to stop doing that. And I think that's going to work out for them. Like, they've stopped doing it on the defensive line. That's pretty massive. To add Derek Harmon and Y.E. Black and Keanu Benton in the last 2-3 years is huge. I don't think that could be underplayed enough to be, or it is being underplayed or overplayed enough. Like, that is so big. Adding Jack Sawyer is quality depth on the outside because you're spending so much money there. Minka's like if Minka's not on the team and you save like just about $20 million, it's a significant, like, okay, your defense just got way cheaper and got rid of a piece that I think is very good, but like is not playing to his pay scale. And that's the problem with Minka Fitzpatrick is, TJ's worth every penny. Cam's worth every penny. Alex Highsmith, when healthy, is worth every penny. Minka has not been worth every penny the last 2 seasons, and he's got to play better. He's got to come up with more splash plays. I think half of it's, offense is completely ignoring him, and half of it's Minka Fitzpatrick. Like, I think that's what it is. And I think we have a bad just grasp on the safety position because we've had such great safeties in Steelers history. And Minka is another one of them, but he's in a bit of a lull right now, and his high wasn't long enough to create a lull like this. His lull's almost been as good as his high. So I think that changes everything. Is if Minka's the only one that to me is a question mark. I think if you moved on from Minka, or even if you let his contract expire and him and Cam leave at almost the same time and you replace those with younger, cheaper options, the Steelers defense is, a totally different outlook and probably just like very, very good. It probably doesn't take a significant dip. I would say bigger dip with Cam leaving than Minka. And, I agree with you. That's the answer to it. Is like, you're spot on. It's an issue. Minka is option A to move on from because the rest of them, I mean, you're not getting rid of TJ, and there's really no, like, why would you get rid of Alex Highsmith? That one doesn't make any sense either. So you're not wrong. It just boils down to that's the truth and that's the layout of it.
Hey, Noah, it's Marlon again. I seen that
What's good, dude?
You needed some more calls. You figured I could spare some time and give you a call. Here's
No
a
doubt.
question I don't know if anyone's asked you, but I've been very curious about. Are the offensive staff or offensive coaches, are they in a make it or break it year?
Yes.
If so, how? With the moves offensively that we've seen up to this point, obviously Omar can still cook. But what? Like, I don't think Steelers fans are going to, after Finkner and Matt Canada, say Arthur Smith has a season where the offense is 23rd, 25th, somewhere like that. I don't think the fan base is going to be too calm with that. And obviously the front office doesn't run on the fan base, but I mean, it's a lot of noise, right? You know what I mean? Like, I'm just curious on what you think, if this would be a make it or break it for Arthur Smith and company. I do think that the offensive line, this is a make it or break it for Pat Meyer, but more than that, would this be one for Arthur Smith as well?
Marlon, my man. Yes, so it is, but just because a lot of I believe Arthur Smith's contract expires after this season. Eddie Faulkner's would probably retire pretty soon. Pat Myers would probably retire pretty soon. Azani and Arth, I would imagine, they're next year after the 2026 season. But that's why it's make it or break it, is the Steelers don't fire coaches. They just let their contracts expire, and they'll let them expire. They'll say, all right, it wasn't enough. Now, if everything else on the offense looks good and the Steelers are saying we got a quarterback next year, you're going to get one good year of Tom Arth and everybody else to say, all right, let's see if this is it. I don't think Arthur Smith is a guy that loses his job. Like, if he wants to be in Pittsburgh, I think the Steelers are going to keep him in Pittsburgh. He's a pretty hot name in the NFL. He's the Mike Tomlin of offensive coordinators right now. Like, everybody wants him. Everybody respects him. The fan base sees the flaws, and I think Arthur Smith is a phenomenal offensive coordinator who needs more to work with. That's what I think the system is. So, yes, but no. The next year is the make it or break it year. This year is the you have to look better. You have to look like the offensive coordinator that's going to prepare your next franchise quarterback to succeed. That's what this offense has to look like. It doesn't have to win, 16 games. It doesn't have to win a playoff game. It just simply has to look like it's ready for next year with the quarterback, which is a wild place to be, but it's true.
Hey, Noah, it's Doug from Philadelphia. Got 3 things for you. First, can you get a triple XL and the AST hoodie? That's my first question.
Yes, I can.
Second question, we need to configure a all Steelers talk tailgate. I'd be happy to help with that. Let me know. Last but not least, can you give us your predictions or grades on each position group for the Steelers thus far this year, and the biggest need outside of quarterback, the biggest need we need to make sure we fill? Thanks.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
We'll definitely get the triple X, no doubt. I'll have that up rocking by the end of the day here. Tailgate would be awesome. Tailgates are tough with me because excuse me. Tailgates are tough with me because I have to be at the stadium so early. And because of that, it's tough to say, like, hey, I could, I can't tell people, like, hey, show up at, 8 a.m. so that I could be gone by 10, like that's tough. But I do something interesting in the works, to be honest with you. It's still a little early in the process, of the what's going on, situation. But I hope I have some cool news for you guys in the next, I would say, couple of weeks. Keep an eye out. Just keep an eye out. All right. Position groups. Quarterback's a strong F. Boom. Big fat F. Running back's an A to me. I mean, you did it all. You got Caleb Johnson, steal. You re-signed Jalen Warren. Love it. Kenneth Gainwell's a great RB3. Love that one. And Trey Sermon / Cordell Patterson, fighting chance for it not to be Cordell Patterson. A. I love it. Wide receivers, a C, because I like keeping Ben Skoranek. Robert Woods is the tiniest upgrade of all time over Van Jefferson, but he's still there. Calvin Austin, Roman Wilson, DK Metcalf. He got rid of George. Wish he got it, better compensation for him. I don't think it's the worst situation in the world, but I don't think it's good. Tight end is, you got a B in tight end. Love Pat Freiermuth. Love Darnell Washington. Donald Parham, Connor Hayward. Cool. Let's see what happens there. Love DJ Thomas Jones as an undrafted guy. Hope he's a fullback. Excited there. Offensive line's a C plus, because the front line is great. It's what you want. I think it's spot on, actually. The back line, the second, outside of Spencer Anderson, and Ryan McCollum, there's really not anything that excites me whatsoever. So it's great front line, terrible depth. I'd go C plus. Defensive line's an A. They fucking, excuse my language. They hit that out. That's how excited I am about the defensive line. They hit it out of the park on the defensive line. I love and that includes the outside linebackers. I love every single thing about it. The group is great. It's stacked. It's loaded. It's got great talent that's young, great veteran. Phenomenal job on the defensive line. Inside linebacker, keeping Cole Holcomb is a plus for me. I would say it's a B with the potential to be a B plus if Peyton Wilson and Patrick Queen hit. I will say that I don't think there's an A. I think there's maybe 2, maybe 3 A's in the entire NFL at the inside linebacker position. Safeties, I mean, it's a good safety group. It's a B plus safety group. Deshaun Elliott's a stud. Minka Fitzpatrick is Minka Fitzpatrick. Juan Thornhill, I think, is a great addition. And Sebastian Castro is a sleeper to me as an undrafted free agent this offseason as well. Corner, I'd go B minus. Darius Slay was a question mark, but I understood it. Corey Trice, I think you have a lot of faith in. We'll see what happens. Didn't do anything on the inside except for Brandon Eccles. I think that's a concern. I'd say B minus there. Biggest need outside of quarterback is easily wide receiver 2. It's without question wide receiver 2. But offensive, I'd get an offensive tackle. Like those, boom, boom. That's my 1-2 right there. And then a slot corner, because I think you have competition there, which is good. The Steelers don't love to spend money there, which is okay. Right now, where we're at, you need a swing tackle, man. What if Broderick Jones is not good? What's your other option? You don't have one? That can't happen. That can't happen.
I was listening to the end of Monday's pod. I heard you guys talk about, forced fumbles on defense or even interceptions. Man, I think there's going to be a lot of blocked passes, because Derek Harmon's there and his arms are longer than Cam Hayward's.
Massive.
YU Black is just huge. I assume that there's going to be a lot of batted down passes this year, as well as interceptions and fumbles,
Yes.
But that's kind of off of what I didn't want to. No, what I was going to ask you, let's talk about our division here. Last year, I remember you had the Bengals #1, Ravens, Pittsburgh, and then the Browns. And I think Nick had the Ravens, the Bengals, the Steelers, and the Browns. I'm not exactly how sure that went, but what are your predictions this year? And do you think that the Bengals or the Browns got any better? Because, they drafted 2 quarterbacks. They don't have anyone to protect them. They got the running backs. They don't have no one to block the running back.
Yep.
And the Bengals, people say it's a lot easier to teach defense than offense, but I find that maybe it's easier if you have a defensive coach, but I don't think they have that. And some of the players that they drafted in the draft this year already have starting roles in that locker room for the Bengals. So I just don't understand. My prediction is probably, I hate it. I'm not going to, but probably the Ravens. I still see Pittsburgh being #2. I see the Bengals and then the Browns. And it's just, man, at the end of the day, the Bengals scored 40 points last year and still lost games. And they're not going to do that. They're not going to score 40 points against Pittsburgh's defense this year. I don't think so. You never know with Joe Burrow, but they're really the same team, just with a little bit, I don't know, but see your predictions. I appreciate it.
Shout out to Cody Silva, man. My prediction is the same. It's Baltimore with ease right now. It's the should be MVP of the league last season. It's Pittsburgh, which I think is still a 10-win team, 9-10-win team, no matter who's out there. It's Cincinnati, who might win 10 games, might win 6. I have no idea. And then it's Cleveland. That's what it is. It's Shedeur Sanders ain't winning the Steelers or ain't winning the AFC North right now. Kenny Pickett ain't winning the AFC North right now. Joe Flacco might, but probably not. And Dylan Gabriel, man, shout out to Browns reporter who gave us a height update. You know what I'm saying? I would give it the exact same rundown there. Is Cincinnati is just such a question mark that Pittsburgh's ahead of them. I think Pittsburgh, even with Mason Rudolph, is less of a question mark, if that makes sense.
Noah, thank you so much for taking my call today.
No doubt.
This is Taylor. I have kind of a more big picture question for you, my friend. I know we're all obviously very focused on this off season and this season and the next coming seasons, and hope that we can find our next franchise quarterback and, what the next direction of this team is going to go in the near future. But I don't know. I have more concerns big picture wise about this team. I'm on the fence about Tomlin. He is a great coach, but he's got a lot of his personal setbacks, and a lot of issues that are, he just is who he is. He's not necessarily going to change. And that kind of leads me to thinking more so about what the bigger issue is, big picture, is just, ownership of this team. Obviously, you know the Rooneys, you know more of what's going on the inside. So my question is the organization ever going to move into the 21st century with the Rooney ownership?
Okay.
Or are we just kind of doomed as a fan base to deal with owners that don't want to pay to upgrade their the workout rooms and the facilities And, you
Ooh.
know, where we get called cheap left and right. And we get poor ratings all the time for, you know, just kind of things internally and things that it's ownership of. It just seems like there are some potential red flags with things. And, you know, aside from the fact that ownership rocks with the same coaches for 20, 25 years, for better or for worse, you know, we are devoted to a defensive first-minded team. We want to spend the most on defense. It just seems like there's so many things philosophically that the Rooneys are holding us back from doing that could make us more successful and more of a modern franchise. And my question is, do you think they could ever change their mindset and decide to invest in things and go with a different philosophy? Or is it always just going to be like this? And what's the likelihood that they do ever sell and, you know, potentially have a change at some point in the future? Or is it just going to be the Rooneys passing generation to generation and this is just going to be how it is forever? Curious what your thoughts are on that. All right. Thanks, man. Love the show.
Dude, phenomenal question. Way to break it down. I'll start by giving the easy answer, which is the Steelers will never sell. The Rooneys will never sell the Steelers. That's not going to happen. It will be passed down from generation to generation, probably forever, but definitely for as long as me and you live, unless, you know, what's that dude's name? Tim Robinson or something? No, Tim Robinson's the comedian, whatever, who's going to live forever. Unless that's you or his kid, not going to happen. Are they coming into the 21st century? That's a tough question to answer because part of it has to be blamed on their location. Pitt is just not, it kills everything that you're looking for. You can't get bigger because you don't have the space. The Steelers need to move. They're going to move somewhere. I would imagine the North Shore, and I would imagine the facility that they make is quite freaking massive. Like that's what I would guess. So I do think that in the next 5 years, potentially sooner, the Steelers will have a better looking facility somewhere. That's my anticipation. That's what I expect to happen. The stadium's tough because the Steelers stadium is wildly old and they do almost nothing to upgrade it. I would guess at some point that's upgraded, but not today or tomorrow. You know, I don't know when that's going to be. I do think they want to come into the 21st century. They want to catch up on these things. They want to be ahead in the training room and stuff. They don't have the space right now. They truly don't have the space right now. It is tiny, and you're splitting it in half with Pitt. Like, there's not even enough parking in the parking lot for all of the cars. It's wild how jam-packed it is in there. And again, you just don't have the space. So they need to get the space. I would imagine the space comes within the next 5 years. That's on the Steelers. They will never sell. They will try to get into the 21st century. Do I think it's actually going to happen? I don't think they ever catch the Cowboys or the Eagles, you know, who also have a phenomenal facility. Like, they're not going to catch those guys. But I would guess that they go from, like, they're pretty near dead last to at least middle of the pack in the next 5 years. That's my guess. I could be totally, like, you know, that's just from every context clue I get, that's the sense.
Noah, Eddie the First here out of San Antonio. Just wanted to call in and say congrats to Jacob joining the show.
Yes, sir.
Good question for you today. With all these international games that's happening year after year, what city, if any, do you ever see the NFL expanding to with its first international team? Anyway, take care, buddy. Talk to you later.
Yes, sir. Shout out our boy Jacob, dude. Shout out to all you guys for giving him a more welcome. It's awesome to have Jake on the show. And when it comes to the city that they'd expand to, I would guess London. That would be my guess. I think it's going to happen. When it's going to happen, probably not for many years, because the Steelers have to implement, or not the Steelers, the NFL has to implement itself enough to where the fan base there is large enough to say, this is worth the money, because you're losing half of the fan base from the other team that isn't going to travel. So you need the team there. You're not getting Vikings fans. You know what I mean? Like, the team there has to have a following big enough to fill a stadium every Sunday. And That's going to be tough. It's also got to come down to logistics, because if teams have to travel to London, or if a team has to travel to London every single year, like, it's a tough spot to be in. So to fit that with multiple teams, it's going to happen eventually. When, I don't know. London's going to be the place, though. I would be shocked if it's somewhere else.
Hey, Noah, this is Andrew from Florida giving you a call today. And,
yes, sir.
I just wanted to kind of try and put some pieces together here for the George Pickens trade, because I'm just kind of trying to figure out, everything behind the scenes that really led to this. And I've got a couple questions regarding that. The first of which is, what do you think Mike Tomlin's breaking point was? Do you think it was like the Chiefs game when he showed up late? Because that seemed to get out rather quickly, and I feel like that probably could have had some major impact for him. Or do you think it was something else, or do you think he'd already reached it? Number two is, do you think it's more likely that Pickens initiated the trade or Tomlin did? Because it kind of feels weird to me that Pickens was as quiet about it as he was,
Unless you believe his Instagram
feels like something that could have blown up a lot more than it did. And, the other part I wanted to ask about was whether or not you thought the value of the trade was good. Like, do you think that's the best we could have gotten for him, or if, we could have done better? Anyways,
love it.
Thanks for answering, and, love the show. Peace.
Shout out. Look at, yes, I don't think it was enough. The George Pickens trade was tough. It was not, I would have expected a second round, but it just shows that the NFL saw what the Pittsburgh Steelers saw and what all of us saw, and a player that's troublesome, player that has a bad reputation within the league, and a player that isn't going to be team first, and you're taking a shot on being able to develop that character, because even Mike Tomlin has admitted in the past that the character is shoddy at best, not the maturest of players in the NFL. So I think a third round value, after seeing that, makes me realize a third round value might be okay for George Pickens, because you might have been able to get a fifth in 2-3 months. When he's holding out a training camp, if he's holding out a training camp, the Steelers are getting significantly less than a third rounder. So I thought it was going to be more. Hearing it wasn't, realizing it wasn't, kind of makes me realize that it was never going to be anything more. When it comes to who initiated it, the Steelers have had plans to move on from George Pickens since like January. That was their thought, is after all the nonsense that happened this past season, they had it in their heads of we're going to move on from George. But they have to save face, you know what I mean? Like, they can't sit here and say we're moving on from George Pickens in press conferences. That's not the way to go about it, because what if you don't get anything for George and you have to keep him? Then you look like the guy that was trying to trade your player. That's not a guy that's going to show up for training camp on the last year of his deal. If you're out here saying that you're going to trade him, like, it's not going to work out in your favor. It's not. And the Steelers had to do what they had to do to save face and to make sure that the league understood that they weren't desperate and so on and so forth. But they were making phone calls, I know, since January. They've been making phone calls for George Pickens. So it was Pittsburgh. George is probably happy, because he probably wanted nothing to do with Pittsburgh. He probably wanted nothing to do with another crappy quarterback situation. The dude's had 5 starting quarterbacks in his NFL career. That's ridiculous. You're not giving that guy an opportunity to succeed. And, I understand if he's upset about it, or if he's thrilled to have left Pittsburgh. I think that's, I get it. I do get it. Go get paid, pal. Go get a situation that's better for you. I think that's why he's quiet. So it's Pittsburgh. Where you go from here is you got to find a wide receiver 2. I expect them to find one, but not until like July. The early July is when I anticipate something being done for the Steelers, because they want to see what Roman Wilson and Calvin Austin have, and if Robert Woods is good. And they're going to try to talk themselves into all of them, but they're going to ultimately come down to, they have a situation. They need to start winning more games. Okay, let's make a phone call. I think that's how it'll go down.
Hey, good morning there, Noah.
Yes, sir.
Hopefully it's a wonderful day in the Berg. Don't know if I made the cutoff or not, but this is Stephen Cornfield. Should have started off with that. Don't know why I didn't.
I know.
Probably because my coffee hasn't kicked in yet for the day. But I wanted to first, give a big old shout out to Grayson the Ginger. Hey bud, hang in there with UPS. I welcome you to the Brotherhood of Teamsters.
Yes, sir.
Nick, I wanted to give you a shout out for bringing Jake, who's a dog, onto the show, and also, shout out to you, Jake. I also kind of want to know, I know how you had the projection with George Pickens, blowing it up with the Cowboys. With how the offensive line was in front of Naj, do you think that under Harbaugh and their O-line, Naj will be utilized even better than we used him, and he's also going to have a blow-up season? And if so, who do you think would have a better season then? Do you think it would be Naj, or do you think it would be Caleb Johnson if Caleb had the starting position on our squad? And I was also curious to know what you're running on the green, because I just got my new clubs, and I just got some new Ping G 430s, and would like to test them out with you sometime if we ever end up in the same city. But I hope you have a wonderful day, Noah, and can't wait to listen to your shows today.
Shout out Stephen Corfield, man. Shout out to Jake. Shout out to Nick. Shout out to Grayson the Ginger, bro. Shout out to everybody. It's a good time. When it comes to the golf, when I'm running here, I got the TaylorMade Stealths, and to be honest with you, life-changing, because those things have more control than anything I've ever hit in my life. Like, I'm not a guy that's an accurate golfer, and I go on spurts where I'll golf, twice a week for like a month, and then I'll golf once in 2 months, so to have that ability, fantastic. I'm a Stealth 2 guy, or a Stealth TaylorMade guy. When it comes to the Najee Harris, sorry, I was into the golf. Najee Harris. Look, I think Naji is going to a better situation. I do, with a better offensive line and a better running game. And, I agree with all that. I also think that Najee's issue a lot of times was the fact that he just couldn't see the hole or what to do after the hole, and it became a problem, So unless Harbaugh is out here creating run designs where you just can't miss the open field, then I just don't think that he gets any better than like that 1,000-yard mark. But I do think he's a 1,000-yard runner no matter where he is in the NFL, and I think that's pretty good. When it comes to Caleb Johnson, I don't expect Caleb Johnson to be the starter. I do expect Caleb Johnson and Jalen Warren to have collectively more yards than Najee Harris, but Najee's going to have Omari and Hampton in front of him, so it's going to be the same thing. Najee as a number 2 and Caleb as a number 2, I'd guess that Caleb has a better season than Najee Harris. I would. I think that he's just got better vision. He's built more for the offense. He's an explosive runner. Like, he's what the Steelers were hoping Najee was going to be, and I think Najee's going to be good. But I think Caleb Johnson's going to be a stud, and I'm going Caleb Johnson this one. And to be honest, maybe it's bias. I don't think it's close.
Man, Noah Strackmire.
What's good?
What's up, baby? Also, what's up, Jacob P? Just want to ask you a question. This is Chase. Just want to see if I could pick your brain about something really, really quick. Okay? So we essentially have the ability right now to control our own destiny as far as this weird schedule. We have a couple of games early and a couple of games late. And honestly, I want to hear how you feel about the schedule.
Yep.
But for the most part, I would like to see if with this schedule, do you think it's advantageous of our quarterback situation? When we have a couple of early games that are easy, then we get into like the meat and potatoes, and we have that little weird gauntlet where we play the Bills and then the Ravens and then the Browns and in that area. I just want to hear what you think about that, and just want to let you guys know that you guys are doing an awesome job. I love what you guys are doing with AST. Appreciate you guys a lot. Thank you.
Shout out, my man. Shout out. Thank you. I'm looking at the schedule right now. So, okay. So you start off with New York, which is, in my opinion, a win. I'm not putting the Jets above much higher than they were. But then again, it's a revenge game for Justin Fields, which could or could not work in his favor. Is he going to be good? Is he going to show up for the revenge game? Or is he, he's going to try to do too much in the revenge game? We're going to see what happens. We're going to see what happens. Seahawks is a win for the Pittsburgh Steelers, unless something goes wrong, because to me, like DK is going to have, that's the guy I trust to have 400 yards. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like that's the guy that I look at and say, it's going to be okay. You're going New England, Minnesota, and Ireland's a toss up. That's super tough. But if you eliminate that one, New England, Cleveland, Cincy, Green Bay, Indianapolis, Chargers, the Bengals, the Bears, like right up until that spit, it's all like back and forth. Maybe they'll win, maybe they won't. Most likely they're going to come out of that with a winning record. Buffalo, Baltimore, Miami, Detroit is a tough stretch. That is a tough stretch, especially Miami on Monday night. Luckily it's in Pittsburgh. I think that works heavily in their favor, but a tough situation there for sure. Cleveland, Baltimore to end it is brutal. It's so brutal. So I think the schedule is tough. I don't think it's nearly as tough as last year. And I think we're kind of all underwhelmed on that. It's like, oh, it's not that bad of a schedule because we've seen the worst schedule of all time. That's the Steelers had the worst schedule in NFL history last season. And this is nothing compared to it, but I still think it's challenging. And that last final stretch, man, you're going to be beat up going into the postseason. And that's for sure, is you are going to be beat up and bruised, and you're going to have to win some big games. You got to take advantage of the middle of the season. That's what it is. It's not even the early parts. It's the, can you win those back and forths? Can you come out of that with a winning record? That's going to be huge because you're going to have to win some games at the end no matter what. You got to be ahead of the sticks. When it comes to the quarterback situation and all that stuff, I think that if you're looking at it and going, you have a veteran that's going to be good, the key to this is staying healthy. That's what it is. If Aaron Rodgers is your guy, you have to keep him upright and ready to go and as close to 80, 90% when you get into that back half of the season as you can, because that is going to be crucial to the Pittsburgh Steelers succeeding and not having to deal with, you know what I mean? Go back to the final Ben years when he would limp off the field and you were just saying like, dude, Ben's got, like, does Ben even have another game left in him? Like, he's so bruised up right now. You don't want that to be Aaron. You want Aaron to be as close as possible to that 80, 90 mark as you can before that final stretch, because that final stretch is it's gonna hinder him. It's gonna hit him hard, and you're gonna have to be. That's my thoughts on the quarterback. Like, I don't think it changes anything. Aaron's still your guy, but keeping him upright and ready to go for that final stretch is gonna be key, because he's not gonna be a young rooster out there. You know what I mean? Like he ain't Will Howard, dude. He can't get it. He's been hit. He's been hurt. He's been beat up. He's 41 years old, fragile. I don't know what the rivers have and the Malibu oceans have, but I don't think it's making the bones stronger at this age. You got to keep them upright. That's my best advice when it comes to the quarterback situation. Stretch, the final stretch is brutal, but to be honest, the Steelers schedule isn't. It's a normal good schedule. Like, I think that's what it is.
Hey, it's Rex 7 out here in Massachusetts across enemy lines.
Yes,
I'll
sir.
keep it quick because I'm actively at work right now and I can't be on the phone. And also, I just had a quick thought real quick. Am I foolish to think we could trade for one of those year 2, year 3 receivers, like a Roma Dunze or like Michael Wilson from the Cardinals?
Yeah,
maybe. I don't know. Maybe we could even make Quentin Johnson good. I don't know. That's probably too far. But I don't know. You tell me how you feel, Noah. Thanks.
Appreciate you. That's a good question. I don't think Roma Dunze is on that list. I think Michael Wilson maybe is a different story because Arizona's in a weird spot. They have talent. It's not like, Roma Dunze is supposed to be wide receiver 1 for the rest of time in Chicago. Michael Wilson's supposed to be wide receiver 2 in Arizona for quite some time. So I could see Michael Wilson, Quentin Johnston. I mean, he ain't going to be good. You ain't going to win that one. I think you walk the line of potentially, and it depends on who it is, because I don't think you're getting a Marvin Harrison. I don't think you're getting a Malik Neighbors. I don't think you're getting a Roma Dunze or Brian Thomas Jr. or any of those guys. I think maybe you're getting a Michael Wilson. Like maybe those guys could be expandable, but it would have to be like a wide receiver 2 to a wide receiver 3 on their current roster just to have that conversation. And even then, it's a lot, because you're looking at a team that just put investments into this and saw the immediate return and said, okay, this is nice. This is a good start. So right now their worth is probably higher than anticipated. Like, you're not getting them cheap. You're maybe getting them for one pick higher than they went. So if Michael Wilson, I think, was a 4th round pick, maybe a 5th round pick, so you're getting them for a 3rd. That's what you're getting them for. And that's tough. That's tough to say, because these are, guys that right now hot commodities because they have a spot on the team and they're so cheap and they looked all right last year. That's my only pullback there. Is I think it's possible, but I think you're really, really walking the line. I really do. I really do. All right. With that said, guys, I'm Ed out here. Thank you so much for calling into and jumping on to another episode of the AST Call-In Show. Shout out to everybody who called in. If you want to call in next week and give us another jam-packed show, because this was awesome. I just talked for 55 minutes. Throat scratchy. I'm ready for round 2 in like 4 hours here. Super pumped for it. Become a member by joining the AST Nation. Clicking the link in the description below. Finding us on YouTube under the membership tab at youtube.com/allsteelerstalk. If you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube. Download us anywhere you get your audio podcasts. And as always, find all of my work at si.com/NFL/Steelers. I'll be back this afternoon for the flagship show. Once again, shout out and enjoy another beautiful day in the Berg. Peace.